Parking tickets, we all hate them, and that's why I don't pay them. What made me do this video is over the past few years I had a look. I've got a little folder on my Dropbox. My Dropbox has got all my parking ticket appeals, my bus lane appeals. Now in total I've had 8 parking tickets and bus lane appeals, and you'll be able to find the templates for those down in the link for my website. How many of those parking tickets do you think I've paid? Yeah, that's right. Absolutely 0. I've not paid them for a number of reasons, and the reason in most of the cases is an important one. Now I've not paid those parking tickets because I don't think they were justly deserved. Just want to add, I've not paid them and just completely ignored them. I followed through the appeal process, and through going through the appeal process, I've got off the parking tickets. 3 or 4 of them were for the motorbike, 3 of them for the car, and 1 was a bus lane ticket. I've not paid any of them. There are 3 points I just want to briefly discuss before we get into this. Point number 1, this is about unfair parking tickets. This is not an excuse for you to park wherever you want, do whatever you want, park on double yellow lines, crossings near schools, run people over, block up traffic, or you name it. This is about parking tickets where you've parked somewhere, it's legitimate, and the councils or the private parking organisations have tried to screw you over unfairly, and you shouldn't be paying them. Number 2, it's important to differentiate that there's 2 different types of parking tickets as you know them. One is a penalty charge notice issued by councils. The other is a fixed penalty notice generally issued by private organisations. 2 different routes that you need to follow, and generally speaking, private parking organisations are the worst, and they're the ones that try and get away with the more unscrupulous stuff. Councils can be absolute bastards, I'm not saying that, and also I find that councils are much harder to get away from in terms of getting out of the tickets. But if you follow the process and you do what you think's fair and right, and they've clearly not displayed the signs, and you've not breached any rules as far as you can tell, then it's not fair that you should pay them, so you should make sure that you do not. Point number 3, time is money. And what I mean by this, normally a lot of times within 14 days you can pay a parking ticket at a reduced rate of around £25. You've got to weigh up the amount of time and effort that you're going to take into getting off that parking ticket and whether it's worth it. Having said that, check out the link and description that I'm going to post down below, and the description that I'm going to give you at the end for a really quick, fast and easy method to generate your parking tickets. So before I go into the 5 steps that you need to follow, here's a few rules around parking tickets. There are literally dozens and dozens of rules that mean that your parking ticket was issued incorrectly. There are also dozens and dozens of mitigating circumstances that mean that you don't have to pay your parking ticket. All those rules, or most of the rules that relate to that, are listed down in the description below. If you fit into one of those categories, it's very likely that you've got a good chance that you can get off your parking ticket. Some of those rules include unclear or non-compliant signage. Other mitigating circumstances include being rushed to hospital, giving birth, accidentally having your arm chopped off, or double parking while you're robbing a bank. No, not that last one. So you've established your reason, and now I'm going to go through 5 quick points on what you need to do in order to get off the parking ticket. Point number 1, gather all the information. Remember this, gather the information before you actually take the parking ticket off your car. So take pictures of it before, look around the car, make sure there's been no damage caused, make sure you get pictures of the street signs, the signage, how narrow the bay was, how closely cars were parked to you. You need a plethora of information that you're going to stick in the appeal. Number 2, act quickly. So you need to make sure you act quickly. Don't dither about, don't get home and send the appeal ticket 13 days later if you've got a 14-day early payment period. Get home, write it out, send it off, have done with it, and then leave it with them, which will normally be around 28 days before they come back to you with a successful, probably rejection letter, but we'll come on to that. Number 3, follow the procedure. So if you do go to courts, or you're prepared to go to court, we'll come on to that again shortly, you need to make sure you follow the procedure. There is some sort of militant approach you can take, which is you can write to them and say, I am not paying you. That's putting the ball in their court, because they need to take you to court then effectively in the same principle that someone would had an invoice been sent to you that you're refusing to pay. I wouldn't recommend that. I would insist on following the procedure until the last stage where you can no longer take it any further, and then you need to decide whether court's an option or whether you are actually going to pay the fine. Number 4, be prepared for rejection. A lot of these private parking organisations in particular, and sometimes the councils very much have a standard rejection letter. They'll send you out on that, and then you will have to appeal that again with another letter. Again, if you click through onto the website, some of those templates are down there for you to do that. On pretty much 90% of the occasions that I've done that, I've never got away with them. You send a second letter one and they either think, Jesus Christ, this guy, or they just write back and appeal again, and then you write back and then they definitely think, this guy. If all else fails, just don't pay, but you need to be prepared to call the bluff. This has worked for me, no joke, 7 or 8 times. Out of those, maybe 3 or 4 of them, people said, you know, I needed to pay. And I said, I'm not paying because I knew I was in the right. So if you're in the right, you know you're in the right, stick with it. And point number 5, as I said, is if all else fails, don't pay, let it go to court. The worst case scenario for you could be on that case that you could have a few £100s in court fees and costs if they did take it to that stage. Bearing in mind that if you have already been rejected through their rejection process, that the court might listen to that and take that into account when trying to make the decision. The other thing to say is if it did get to that stage, you could always write to the parking agency and prepare to make an out-of-court settlement, which would be possibly the higher of the amount of the parking tickets, thus weakening their position when they get to court because you've offered an out-of-court settlement which they didn't wish to settle on, and they brought you to court. So I hope that's helped. I hope that helps save you a few pennies, a few pounds maybe if you get one of these parking tickets that aren't correctly issued and are unfairly issued. Do not pay them, guys. The amount of times I've spoken to people who've said, oh, I got this parking ticket, it was 80 quid, 100 quid and they've paid. It's a waste of money. Have you not got better things to spend your money on? Yeah, I have. Thought so. Well, spend it on those things. The last thing I wanted to mention was a website called donotpay.co.uk. I hadn't heard about this until I did a little bit of research around some of the parking tickets and some of the rules around it. Now, donotpay.co.uk is a brilliant template if you didn't want to go and download some of my templates and start messing around with Word. You go in, you put your reason in, it generates a template for you with the parking number and your pictures, you print it off and then you send it off. It's free of charge, all you've got to do is sign up, and remember guys, stay educated.
Second.